Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box. Now, television in the 70s had a lot of music on it. It was the pre-cable age. Cable came out at the end of the 70s, and that's when your big C-band dishes also became popular. But through much of the decade, it was really down to the three main networks or local programming where you could see music. And there was a lot more of it, perversely, than there was in many respects when the channel offerings got bigger with cable. And a lot of it was live. And certainly the best music shows had live music. And for my dollar, I would say the best ever was the Midnight Special. And today we wish the Midnight Special a very happy birthday because it was on this day in 1972 when Wolfman Jack premiered the first ever episode. Now, what makes the Midnight Special unique? Well, I suppose you could say its origins. In the early 70s, the Nixon administration prohibited tobacco ads on television, and this was a major source of revenue for the network. So, what do you do to make up for that loss? Well, you produce programming that goes later in the evening. On NBC, where the Midnight Special was shown. Johnny Carson used to be the latest thing on television. It was the Tonight Show because after Carson, talked about the weird, wild stuff, everyone went to sleep. But revenue demands of the 70s, along with inflation, demanded that they needed a cheap show to put on television. And nothing's cheaper than music, ladies and gentlemen. So hire a musician and don't be stingy. What was brilliant about it is it didn't require writers, it didn't require elaborate set designs, didn't require film, just, or, you had your video cameras, your television cameras in place, live direction, and you shot the thing. And it was a huge success. Wolfman Jack was the ever-present host, and they also had guest host musicians throughout most of its run, who, along with Wolfman, kept the thing going. And what was so special about the show is the wide variety of music that was on. You had rock and roll, you had country, you had oldies, 50s music, you had classic pop, you had instrumentalists, you had hard rock, prog rock, modern country crossover, you had disco, you had jazz, you had singer-songwriters, you had every conceivable genre. This wasn't necessarily true for other shows. There was, of course, the great Don Kirshner's rock concert, which was rock music. You had so many others. You had in West Germany, you had Musik Ladin, which was generally rock, but tending toward the progressive side, and they have some great archives. In the UK, you had Old Grey Whistle Test, again, mostly, not exclusively, mostly on the rock side. You had variety shows, Sonny and Cher, Glenn Campbell, so many others, but on those shows, even though you had great musical acts, it was often more about the host than about the music, where the Midnight Special put the music first, and it did so, like I said, in every conceivable genre, but it gets better. The Midnight Special has been resurrected in the age of YouTube because starting about 2 years ago, I think someone can correct me on that. They started on Friday premiering a new episode. Well, new in the 70s, but they've gone in order from the pilot episode to every subsequent episode, Friday upon Friday. And eventually, but not for a while, they'll run out because the show ran until the early 1980s. And I love what they're doing with that YouTube channel. They're making these live premieres an event. People get to see some of their favorite artists and clips that they might have never seen before. People will get exposed to new artists who might not have had the legacy they deserved, but who at any given time were worthy of being on the Midnight Special. So definitely go to their YouTube page. It's one of my favorite YouTube pages on the internet web, other than mine, of course. So do check it out. And remember, we'll be back after we pause for station identification. If you know the Midnight Special, you'll recognize that signature voice. As always, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.